Welcome, everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast online radio and TV network. I'm Scott Patton, your co-host. We're so happy to have you along on this journey with us. We're here restoring vitality to you and to the planet. Last time we recorded, we had Elijah Free from
Herbs
joining us, and we talked about a whole bunch of interesting tinctures. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the other ones that we didn't have time to talk about last time. So, Martin, which one are we going to talk about first?
Well, okay. Elijah, I would like to talk about the Allergy Ease. Could we tell our friends and clients what it can do and how does it do it?
You bet. It's actually a remarkably simple formula. If you look at it, it only has 2 herbs in it. People will look and go, well, what's the difference between this and, say, a single herb? Well, the main ingredient in there is nettles. Quite a few years ago, I had very bad allergies when I was younger, and I had created a pretty complex formula for that. It had a lot of herbs. It was difficult to make, and I have to tell you how terrible it actually tasted. It was not a good one. So I had tried just nettles, and I actually bought it at a store and it didn't work. And I thought, well, this is odd. I tried another brand and it didn't work, and a third brand and it didn't work. Now, there's so much historical information on this, so I studied the chemistry of nettles, and what I found out was that nettles was not being extracted correctly. We developed an extraction method for this, and it just took off. We used to actually just sell it as a single herb. We added some rhodiola to it, which is a wonderful adaptogen, and as a result, it kind of like supercharged it. Now, very interestingly, what this product does is it does not work symptomatically. It does not cause an allaying of the symptomology, but rather the actual chemical structure of nettles combined with that small amount of rhodiola, when properly extracted. I'll take a side point here to say it takes over 3 weeks to do an extraction of this to get this to work on it. We make it on off-season and stockpile a bit for that so we don't run out. But it actually neutralizes the acid toxins in the body that makes one susceptible to the allergens. So if I can stick my nose in a rose, and Martin can stick his nose in a rose, and Scott can stick his nose in a rose, and we go, wow, this smells great, we don't start coughing and hacking or getting teary eyes or sneezing or anything, then pretty much most people should be able to also. But the core reason for the majority of allergies in the body that cause an allergenic response is actually acid toxins. So this neutralizes it right in the system so that one can go out and smell the rose again and really enjoy it. It also will work nicely to a pretty good degree for cat and dog dander, things like that. However, if you don't brush and comb your cat and your house is all dusty, you know, and you're eating a super heavily acidified diet, of course the product will not work as well. So cooperating with these products or with any product is really, really important. Martin's got a big smile over there, I can see on that one. But our cooperating with how we ourselves can create or renew or rejuvenate, you know, or just rebuild or heal or neutralize the acid toxins in our system enables us then to kind of bring the product up to another level with that. So I always encourage people that if it's really bad allergy season, and I'm here in California, you better believe we got some pretty bad allergy seasons here. I used to take this, and after a while I never needed to take it anymore. But it's a very fast worker. This one has special instructions. We usually encourage people, if you're going to buy it, please buy at least 2 bottles of it. We love it when you buy our herbs, but there's a reason. The first bottle you want to saturate the body with, especially if you've got those really, really, really bad allergies. That means take a half to a full eyedropper every 2 to 3 hours, followed by a nice big glass of water. Once you get through the first bottle, a lot of the neutralization has been accomplished very successfully. Then you can drop to a half an eyedropper 3 times a day. So anyhow, we are excited about this product, and funny enough, you go, it's only got 2 herbs. How can it be difficult? It's actually the manufacturing method. I have a number of people in the clinic that go, what, you're giving me this, and hey, you know, I've got these bad allergies, it's mostly nettles. What happens? I took this company or this company, And that, it didn't work. Why should yours work? It's the manufacturing method for it. It's a very difficult method. Actually, it's just difficult to extract those alkaloids, the active ingredients, out of that particular herb, nettles. But we want to make sure that it works really well, so we go the full length on that one. Cool
Elijah,
product.
I have a question because my sister has really bad allergies, and she gets them. Well, she lives in Victoria, Vancouver Island, so she gets them March, April, May-ish. And I didn't realize, and I was just visiting her a couple months ago, and she was just complaining about these allergies, and I had never heard of it before from her. So if you know that every May certain things pollinate, and that makes you very allergic, you're snuffy, and all that rest of that sort of stuff, should you take it before? Like, I'm assuming that we kind of know when these things happen, if they've been happening for years and years and years. So do we take it a little bit before, or we just wait and say, oh, now I'm all stuffed up, my eyes are itchy, I should take it now? Is there anything about taking it before or after or ongoing that we should know about?
Well, in my humble opinion, prophylactic defense is a very wise thing to do. If you know it's going to be a bad allergy season, you know, it's been really hot, it's been kind of dry, like we've had here in California, the allergies just kind of blossom, bad pun, with that. Didn't really mean to do that one. So it's a great idea. A lot of years people will buy a few bottles of those, keep them around, and if they're, you know, a few days early, it doesn't really matter on that. But the thing is, then they're ready for that, and people just basically don't have as many problems if they have problems at all. Again, following a good diet, drinking a lot of water, and getting off of acidic things, especially like coffee, sugars, things like that, heavy foods, you know, just to clear the body a bit, can really make all the difference in the world for a nice, comfortable, wonderful springtime that we can all smell the roses and have a great time.
So are you saying that a double espresso latte is probably should be off the menu when it's allergy season?
Well, you know, maybe just get yourself going really well, and then maybe less or more. You know, it really depends on each person on it. That's why, like I said, some people can put their nose in the rose and some people can't. You know, every person's metabolism, how their body works on a cellular level, it's a little bit different with that. So it's hard to do it's hard to have a hard, fast rule, okay, in terms of allergies, because people react all kinds of different ways, depending upon the season, what they've eaten. If they're under a lot of stress, that acidifies their body more. If they're, you know, certain things are happening, you know, to them, that can acidify if they've been traveling, and again, how bad the allergy season is going to be itself. So there's a lot of variables in that kind of thing. What we tried to do with this was to make something that standardly worked by not trying to neutralize, you could say, the effect or the symptomology of that, you know, or just kind of make you numb out to it or act as an antihistamine, but rather go to the root cause, which creates the susceptibility within the system, which are the acid toxins.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Elijah. It's
Welcome.
great. Thanks for explaining it so well. Elijah, could you now tell us more about a product that is very popular in our store? It's called Arthritis Ease.
You bet. That is a very interesting product. When I first decided to make that, we had just successfully done a first formula that we hadn't done in a while, which was the Fibromyalgia Ease, which was something really new, which actually worked on the restoring an imbalance in a chemical chain in the body. One of the earlier videos that we did talk about that. Again, people can read about that on the site. So I thought, well, let's look at our pharmacopoeia. It's really getting time to update things. So I thought, well, you know, we've never been able to do, in fact, hardly anybody's, in fact, I'm not sure anybody's ever really done a very successful arthritis formula. It was always based around, can we add or boost the cortisone levels, not the cortisol, but the cortisone levels in the body, or boost the adrenals, or clean the liver, or something like that. This was way before adaptogens were getting really popular in the United States. So the formulas were often built around those. You saw things like Devil's Claw and Chaparral and other things in that order. So I wanted to do something very different. So I thought about a lot of old type remedies. As I was mentioning in the earlier one, I'm kind of one of the old timers now, which is really funny to think about it. And I've been producing and manufacturing herbs myself for over 35 years, so I design and make these for the practice. I make most of everything, you know, that we sell until we're starting to gear up later in the year for much larger production. And then I've been in private practice for decades with a very good medical background priorly. So as a result, I had studied folk medicine and all kinds of things and old cures and stuff like that for many, many years. When I first started, I was always fascinated. There was an old remedy back from way old, where if a person had such bad calculi arthritis, is that they would slather them in honey and then bury them up to the neck, deep next to an anthill. Well, the ants come over, want the honey, and then bite them a whole lot. Well, ants have a particular type of acid in their mandibles and in their mouths, and the acid is a very important thing. It's formic acid that they have. And if you think about it, you wonder, well, ants are such scavengers and they clean up the planet. They'll eat the most rotten, horrible, disgusting, dead thing, and it's like yum, yum. Well, why don't they die of infections? Well, it's because the formic acid is so strong it actually neutralizes a lot of those poisons. And the animal and bird world, it appears in things like vultures and hyenas. Anything that's a carrion eater have some of the cleanest mouths. You'd be better off seriously being bit by a hyena or a vulture than you would by another human being or your dog or your cat. The stronger the acids, the cleaner the mouth in these wonderful animals that help keep the planet clean. So I thought about it and I said, okay, well, this actually is interesting that we did that after the allergy formula, because what that did was it neutralized the acid toxins in the body one more time, the heavy formic acid, and as a result, it would break down in the actual chemical chain what created the calculi arthritis. Now, we're not talking about rheumatoid arthritis, which actually is an autoimmune problem, okay, which is very different. It's unfortunate these things get called that. It's like herbs, blue cohosh, black cohosh, they're not in the same family. True unicorn, false unicorn, they're not in the same family. Like that. So things way back when had a tendency to kind of get lumped together. Oh, well, that's not working well, so it must be called this, and so on. So I thought about it, and I said, okay, well, how can we mimic something like this? Well, gee, we can't produce formic acid in plants, but Iceland moss, Icelandic Vitaria, which is actually a lichen, has fumaric acid in it. And that combined with a seaweed, which is Chondrus crispus, you see that as carrageenan, which is a emulsifier in a lot of your foods. You see it in yogurt and a whole lot of things. There you go. Well, we put those two together and we ended up with a chemical chain which was awfully similar to formic acid. We added hydrangea root to this, which is really cool, which has a particular type of phosphorus chain. Common hydrangea we use actually for kidney stones. This is so cool. Well, this means then that our method of exit from the body, very cool also, we took it through the kidneys. So what this does, it actually dismantles and neutralizes the acid toxins in the body, which then literally leaches out from this whole chain that produces the hardened defect, which they call calculi arthritis. So you kind of think of this is how it works. Imagine sort of like limestone, because by the time you get done, it's actually these deposits in the body chemically are very similar to limestone. It's a combination of lactic and uric acids, bile, thrown off protein, and sodium. So what this does is imagine is some parts of that are more susceptible to being dismantled on it, and when it does that, then eventually everything just begins to, well, turn into its elemental state and flushes out naturally through the kidneys. So it's a lovely formula. It's a very fast worker, but again, I want to make very clear it does not work on rheumatoid arthritis with that, but on calculi arthritis, it's a pretty fast worker on it. I've used it myself on an old foot injury where I had some arthritic buildup. It was pretty bad. And within 10 days, the pain was completely gone, and I took the product for about 3 months, and it never came back. And that was 10 or 11 years ago, if it was a day. So that's a pretty happy formula that's been used for a long time in our clinic. But the fun of it...
How do you take it? Do you, like when you sit on your foot, you just put it on your foot, or what do you do?
Oh, no, you take it directly. You just squirt it right in your mouth. Our tinctures are designed to absorb right in the mucous membranes. We don't want them to go to the stomach, and you don't use them topically. They go right into the mucous membranes. Most tinctures will, if they're really well designed. So they don't go to the stomach. If they go right into the mucous membranes, they go right into the bloodstream and begin to work immediately.
Elijah, how do you, you call it calculi arthritis. Is it similar to osteoarthritis?
Osteoarthritis is where you begin to lose more bone density, in with that. But yeah, it's pretty much, well, actually that can happen at times with that or not happen. But yeah, it's pretty much like that. I use these terms for patients a lot because they can identify with this,
Yes.
in things. So that's where
people will hear different names for different illnesses. As you say, in the old times, people called it arthritis because it had to do with joints. And whether it's autoimmune caused or food indigestion or allergy or who knows what else reason, demineralization, it just gets called by the body part where it affects it.
Oh, these are pretty good ones. Is that top one over there, that was for a dog?
Perhaps, yeah.
Looking for our 12-year-old dog. Look at that. Wow. I didn't even know that one. Very cool. Well,
look at that. You can help a dog.
You can help a dog. That's good to know. My
right.
husband suffered from painful joints in his fingers and stuff. Yeah, it's a very, very fast worker on it. Well, it should be. Why wait?
Great. Okay, Elijah, thanks for describing the arthritis ease in great glowing detail. I would like to now talk about the ALZ ease.
That's kind of one of our magical ones, I have to say. You want to tell them what ALZ stands for, Martin?
Well, I speculate it's the abbreviation of Alzheimer's.
That's correct. That's
correct. I wonder
correct.
why you didn't call it memory ease or something like that.
Well, I'm actually, it says memory underneath it,
Yes.
with it. It just kind of, I like the sound of it, ALZ.
ALZ ease. All right.
ALZ.
Well, so how does it work?
Well, can I give you a little background how we came to this
Please.
formula? This is one of those fun things that I did again, sort of without thinking. Obviously, had known about Alzheimer's for many years, and this goes back quite a few years actually, because we were at the other clinics. It's probably about 6 years now. There was a news magazine. We used to get a lot of them for free because we had a medical doctor there, so they were always sending magazines to the doctor's office for free. Well, on the magazine, it was broken into quarters, and they had pictures of people younger than me, and the article was called "The New Face of Alzheimer's," and these were people getting serious Alzheimer's in their 40s and 50s. It was very, very tragic. Well, there was excellent photography, and photography is a hobby of mine. I just love it. So I know a lot about lighting and all of these things, and I've also been an iridologist for decades and decades and used to teach it. Iridology, folks, by the way, is the science of reading the irises of the eye. So I was looking at the cover of the magazine, and I really wasn't interested because that was something that nobody could do. Well, I happened to notice in all 4 people, because it was the same exact setup, and the photographer, thank you, whoever you are, for this, and I noticed that there was all of 4 people's eyes, there were males and females, they were very, very, very shiny, which meant that they were refracting light. Well, upon closer examination, they were done, this was probably done with film in those days, and they were probably medium format pictures to get that kind of resolution. So that means it was like a 6x6 negative it came from. So the detail on these things were just extraordinary. Well, I went, well, would you look at that? They all have that. So I opened up into the article, and they did that again with the people. Every person had that configuration. Well, that's a I was almost going to tell you my secret on that one, but I won't. But what it was, it means there's a particular type of deficiency in the potassium spectrum, which, I happen to have a patent for on that in the Fibromyalgia Formula. So I said, well, would you look at that? What's showing is that they have massive buildups of fibrinous material in their brains or in their bodies, period. But from this, that means that they would be building up in their brains also, rather than just in the soft tissue or not in the soft tissue. Well, since I have the technology of it, that was fascinating. So I went, that looks like a missing link to me. So I thought, okay, so let's rebuild that so that we can get at the cerebral regions. So then let's just assume that some of the entangling material in there is fibrin. Well, fibrin is several times denser than regular tissue, and it's also very, if you want to leave actually the formula up, we'll talk a little bit about it from that, thank you. It's very hard and can be abrasive. So the thought was, well, if we just kind of clean it up from the neuron heads, what guarantee do we have that the neuron heads themselves are not damaged? Well, herbal-wise, and this was not my discovery, the rest of this was based on really good, solid herbal work that I studied from Dr. Christopher and Dr. Shook, who are my two main, especially Dr. Shook. Dr. Shook is like my lifetime inspiration. And secondly, Dr. Christopher. Well, of course, they had formulas, and I studied all kinds of neurological herbology for a number of years and worked with that. So we made modules from this and then plugged it all in together. So the formula then, hopefully what it does, seems to, in fact, works incredibly well, helps to cause a reabsorption of the exudated fibrinous material cerebrally. Then it helps to repair the neuron heads. And then the third assumption that we went on was, hey, why should we just assume that because the neuron heads are cleaned up that they're going to start firing again? So we have a part for that. And then we hyperoxygenate the body a bit with it, put a director herb in, and the first person I gave it to was a wonderful woman who was a patient for years, and her husband, well, he was probably about my age at the time now, which was middle 60s. They had a grandson who's a big football player guy. You were sitting at the table one day, and the grandfather said to the grandson, "Who are you? I've never seen you before." Well, the grandson's heart just broke. So anyhow, we said, would you like to try this out? We actually have a few people that have been on it for quite a long time just to test it to keep them going. And within a few days, he came out of that fugue. Sometime later, he took a part-time job again and drove his grandson around and could find his way home and lived for some time. Now, importantly is there was a lady who was in her later 80s at the time who I guess was having a very difficult time. She couldn't speak. She was like in a daycare, personal hygiene, and everything was just off. She couldn't do much. She's been on the herbs for quite a long time, but in a short while her hygiene became great. She could talk some, she played cards, she kept conversations. She couldn't go out and drive her car or do anything like that, but she can function and talk, and this is what we find. It'll take them to some degree. Some people recover very well. If it's been very bad, it can really increase the quality of life. We tried so hard to get this to the Alzheimer's Association, and typical things like that. They said, "Are you a drug company?" No. This is, well, when you're a pharmaceutical company, come back and we'll talk to you. So it's really a shame, but this is really one of those products that should really be. There's a few of them. The cortisol product, this one, and once we get the PTSD cortisol project launched, this is the one I'm going after next. My grandpa can remember the day of the week, the month, the year, but the scariest part was he forgot how to take me home. Okay, I hadn't tell him how to get home, and the really scary part was he had been taking me home and so on. He remembers much better. He doesn't ask the same questions, and he remembered how to get to places. After that one time I told him how to take me home. It saved my grandpa and my family, and I thank you. Yeah, that's the lady, her husband. So, at Earth Friend, we do what we do because we've just been doing it for so long. As I mentioned earlier, we started in the town at the same time as a wonderful company, Gaia, who's just, they make the most wonderful stuff, and Jeremy Rose / New Moon, who got sold, by the way, recently to a big company. The guy who owned Jeremy Rose / New Moon owned a small health food store, and the guy who owns or is the president of Gaia was his manager. And the three of us started Herbs right around the same time, but they were very much into companies and things like that. I just wanted to serve. I mean, that's just closest to my heart. I'm not a business person, you could tell. If I was, I'd have one of the biggest herb companies in the world with what we do. But I will say this, Martin, if I went that route, I never would have developed these, because these were developed in the practice. And I just want to say there's something that happens to me when I'm ready these days to design, is I see something and it's in front of me all the time, and it breaks my heart. And when my heart breaks, I know that it's something cool is going to happen. When we're off, I'm going to tell you about something that's really outrageous on it, even for me.
I hear you.
But
all right. So for this particular, let's stay on topic for now. The ALZEs, take it preventively, take it at mildest symptoms, and even if you're just having difficulty recalling things.
Yes, we have folks that take it, they go, I'm just kind of, my memory's not what it used to be. You know, wow, sharpens it up really nicely. They're coming out with all of this new information. They're doing fantastic things, the doc's working on this, is that they're finding that people often can, in other words, before the symptoms even start, that they're finding that, you know, this begins years ahead of time building up. So it's a wonderful, wonderful prophylactic, you know, on this. And it's really given the quality of life, or a much better quality of life, to pretty much everyone that's used it.
Yeah, Elijah, I hear from a lot of people who call it brain fog, or call their symptoms brain fog. Would you say that this could ease that as well, or no?
Well, possibly, but there's other things that can cause that. Even a bad cervical problem can give you a bad brain fog, because pressure on
or sugar management, or glucose management, and the likes, right? All that.
There can be a lot of things like that. So it's hard to say. Brain fog is different than memory loss. I know I've had brain fog a few times when I was really sick a few years ago, and that's what brought this fungus formula. My head felt like it was full of chopped brown paper. Seriously. I didn't have memory loss. I just couldn't think, you know, when that cleared up. I was thinking really well again. My memory came back on that. So it can happen from a number of different sources. Sometimes mixed medications don't work right, and sometimes, as you know, even supplements a person could be allergic to. A person with bad gluten allergies, for example, will have terrible brain fog on it. So, you know, it comes down to the specific thing. My formulas are very specific. They're not this big spectrum for everything. We kind of go in surgically like this, you know, and just really look for the root cause of this particular problem. So they're one-trick ponies, but a lot of these ponies can jump the Grand Canyon. That's a great trick. One trick, but look at that. And we're talking the long way, not the short way across there. We're talking the long way. You know, it's a good jump. So I always encourage people, you know, if you can find out what's going on, you know, with a better sense with it, that's when you really get the success with anybody's formulas, really.
Great. Well, thank you. All right, Elijah, let's talk about Digest Ease.
Oh, that's one of our oldies but goodies. Excuse me. That is such an old formula. I think it was one of the first ones I ever designed. It used to be called Barberry LG Tonic, which stood for liver gallbladder. With it, that's how things used to be in those days, be Barberry LG Tonic and names like that. But basically what this does, it helps to rebuild and strengthen the digestive system. It has special propensities for the liver and the gallbladder and smaller for the spleen. Helps to clear bile ducts, tonify the liver on it. It's just a lovely, lovely formula. I take it every year for about 2 months to 3 months just to clear out my whole digestive tract.
So how many bottles would you use up in those 3 months?
6 only on it. If they're taking it the half an eyedropper 3 times a day, a bottle will last approximately 2 weeks. So it'll be 2 bottles a month. So it's pretty inexpensive. Best way to take this with digestive problems is about 10 minutes approximately before a meal. Wait 10, 12 minutes and then eat. On that, it really helps with digestion a whole lot. Part of what I wanted to do with this formula, when I designed it, was to have something that worked just as efficaciously for the gallbladder as it did for the liver. So it does very, very nice things for both those organs. Now, a lot of people like to do these very intense cleanses. You know, like I'll drink a bunch of olive oil with cayenne and this. And yeah, I have never been into the drastic things. You'll get a beautiful effect like that with it slower without going through the drastic, things like that. I'm just not a big proponent of anything drastic to the body.
Doing the oil shock to clear the gallbladder and all of that. It's quite dramatic. People usually spend a weekend feeling quite unwell.
Yeah, this hopefully will make you spend a bunch of times feeling a whole lot better. But it's what we call one of our oldies but goodies.
So, how similar is it to people who take Swedish bitters or something like that to help production?
It was based on a bitters. On it, if you look at Swedish bitters or some of this one has it's old-fashioned type of formula. The Caledonia magus in it. I love that term. That word, the Latin name for greater celandine. It sounds like something out of Harry Potter. Caledonia magus. Ooh, I'm feeling a whole lot better here. So it is a bitter, but it's, like I said, more specific and maybe a little bit stronger. It's a genuine tonic formula. But it's interesting you mentioned that. You got a good eye over there, because I developed this after studying the bitters, and especially the work of Dr. Vogel on it, who did some wonderful, wonderful material a very, very long time ago, all about bitters and how they work.
Mm-hmm. Vogel, I think, is involved with the Swiss Herbs Company, correct? Flora?
Yes, exactly. Dr. Vogel, he did a wonderful book. It was called Swiss Naturopath or Swiss Nature Doctor.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's not very far from my hand. There it is.
Is it, you got it right there?
A copy of it.
Nice. Yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time. Oh, that's a big one on it. So nice revised edition. I don't have that one. I'll have to take a look.
Lots of pages.
Lovely, lovely. His work is just exquisite. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Him, Jethro Kloss on it. Wow. Historically, there's some amazing, amazing people.
Okay, great. Thank you. Beautifully explained. Let's talk about the kidney and bladder ease.
Okay, got a great story to start that one with. That's another oldie but goodie. I haven't changed that formula in decades. So anyhow, I'm at a restaurant one day and eating with my wife. And this woman keeps looking at me. She's about my age, and she's staring, and she's staring, and she's looking, and she's staring. And I said to my wife, I says, will you go over and tell that woman that you're married to me, please? I don't know why she's staring at me so much. So finally, she finishes eating, and she gets up slowly, and she's looking. And I'm thinking, okay, this is Santa Cruz, and the motto of the town is keep Santa Cruz weird. Well, she comes up to the table, and she's kind of a bit glassy-eyed and a little teary, and I'm thinking, oh boy, with it. And she says, are you Elijah Free? I says, yes. And she said, you saved my life.
Ah.
Okay. I said, wow. I said, would you have a seat? So she tells this story. With this, we used to sell to a very nice medical doctor here who was a natural medical doctor. And he used our formula. It used to just be called KBINFY. That was the old names, which stood for kidney bladder infections, and the Y was corrected for yeast in it. But we went to kidney bladder on this. Well, anyhow, she had a particular type of kidney disease that was fatal. And she had been at Stanford, and they couldn't do anything. And because of the fact it was a systemic problem, as a result, they could not do a kidney transplant. So they said, you should really go home and die. You better get your things together. You're not going to have a lot of time left. Well, she ended up going to this doctor, and like I said, he used to carry some of my products. And this goes back a lot of years. And he gave her this. Well, she began to get better and better, and the symptoms all allayed. Well, eventually what happened was he went his own way, and he but she didn't know where to get them. She tried some other things, and nothing. Well, she tracked me down, and she actually I just actually sent them to her on it, or she picked them up at the clinic. I actually never met her. She said, "Can I buy these?" And she did tell me the story on the telephone, but I got to meet her on this, and to this day, you must have that testimonial over there, I bet. If you don't, I got to make sure you have that one for it. But it's a beautiful one, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful formula for all kinds of kidney problems. We use it at the clinic for a lot of water retention, kidney things, and it's a lovely formula.
So you're mentioning the bladder. I hear from a lot of people with interstitial cystitis. This probably will not work on that, huh?
Oh, it actually does.
Oh.
Yeah, it's designed.
Because IC, as they call it, is one of the curses of many people, especially women.
Yeah. Oh, you should try this one. It was actually that was in the initial design prerequisite that it would work on that.
All right. So, if you have a painful bladder, painful down below, this is it. Yes. I mean, a lot of people get UTIs, urinary tract infections. They probably have scarring from that and all kinds of issues, right?
You know, I've never designed it works so well. I never, in all of these years, have ever designed another kidney bladder formula. It never occurred to me. It'd be like Jeff, who's got every time he does this dish, he wins an award. He's going, "Why do I want to change it? I got something. We're not going to do anything with it." So it's another one of those oldie but goodies. That's an older design. We're getting to some of the older formulas now, but that thing has been around for like I don't know.
Okay. So should we sum it up with? As long as it's got to do with the urine pathway, the elimination channels, it's probably going to help?
Well, we can't guarantee that. Hopefully, we can never guarantee anything because there's so many variables. Now, one thing I want to mention is a lot of these formulas are not for use in pregnancy, okay, or for children. This one is not for children. That's not for pregnancy. Okay, on that. So I want to be really, really clear. It says right on the labels also, too, all of the caveats on those. And it's on our website in big letters. But this is just a lovely formula. It's helped so many people.
So my question is as gentlemen get older, they find that the fire hose is more like
a garden hose.
Or worse than a garden hose. So, you know, my son, when he was 16, he could shoot out 25 feet, and I'm lucky if I can even make it to the toilet sitting over the toilet. So is this something that I would be interested in, or people that have, like, older fellows like us?
That sounds more like a prostate problem, very truthfully, with it. And while we make something, is we haven't marketed that, okay, for a very, very long time. We're actually due for an upgrade on it. We just don't. We had a product for years that we used in clinic. It was called Miltone, but truthfully, nobody's even asked for that for so long, as we just kind of used it up and have never made another one. But that generally, when you're talking about weak urination, they call it scanty urine is the term that used to be used on that. So when you have that weak urination, scanty urine, or the male frequent need to urinate and very little happens, that's first thing we look at then is prostate on it. So when that happens, you might want to have checked out with your doctor, see if there's an enlarged prostate going on. That's something you always want to catch early. Some of the symptoms of that are difficulty in urination, scanty urination. Sometimes after you urinate, there's a little bit that comes out, you know, things in that order. But that sometimes is just a sign it's the prostate needs some help. With that. Doesn't have to be a big deal or anything, you know, but it's always good to get that checked out.
We have found that supplementing iodine usually helps the situation a lot.
Wonderful.
Do you do anything? Do you have any formula specifically that you recommend for men and their prostate problem, or currently not?
Well, we don't have one current right now. If it's something you might like, we could, and you think it'd be a good seller, we'd be very happy to build that and go with our next labeling.
Okay, people, if you're watching this and if you have this desire, please be in contact because we can get it for you. Thank you very much, Elijah. We'll close it off with this. I would like to talk to you about a formula that intrigued me a lot. It's called Immunogen.
Ah. Can you put the formula up on the screen, Martin? Scott, with that?
It's called Immunogen.
Yes. That's an interesting one. We've had a number of, actually, we've had 3 different immune formulas over the years on those. And what we were limited by was the quality of herb that we could get from different parts of the world. Quite a few years ago, well, part of the problem was getting good quality herbs. If they were from China, forget it. If they were from India, ha 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 ha. Now, because a lot of the laws, and because they hang people in China or shoot them for doing terrible things with consumable products, which was probably not a bad idea considering what happened with a lot of the things when all the children died when they put, was it plastic in their formulas so that it
milk,
was more of that. Yeah, that was terrible. Melamine.
Yes,
is what they
melamine in milk, yeah, and
yeah.
melamine in dog food too.
Yeah, really. So when I designed this, I wanted to do something that was worldwide and international. We don't get a chance to. So what we have here, we start off like with Coriolis. This Coriolis is from China, certified organic. We get ours through Canada. Our red reishi mushrooms, rhodiola, okay, China, India, a number of these different islands, South America, cat's claw, Condorango grows at over, was it 7,000 or 10,000 feet in Peru, in the high mountains, things like this. Our white pond lily we have especially harvested for us from a particular pristine lake. So what I did was I wanted to build something based this time around adaptogens rather than just, golden seal and echinacea. And what we found is, how some herbs which were used extensively decades ago, like golden seal and echinacea, have actually fallen out of use. It turned out that echinacea could actually exacerbate a lot of autoimmune problems. Golden seal the body could become used to, even though we found if we mixed it with myrrh, it allayed that problem and became a corrective. So what we did was we wanted to build something that just did not be able to alleviate and really give a hard time to infections and all sorts of stuff like that, but something that could go into the cellular level and actually strengthen the cells. Now, we used to use a principle called tonic herbology. A good example was the Digestes formula. It's a wonderful tonic formula. This would be called more of an adaptogenic tonic formula because herbs like Coriolis and red reishi are mild adaptogens. Rhodiola and astragalus are fabulously powerful adaptogens. So we did something very, very different with this one, and it was a roaring success. As it was, then we actually ended up giving away and finishing up 2 of the other immune formulas. We keep one around now. The first one I ever designed was called INF. We use it with animals a lot. In fact, one of our cats, we have 3 boy cats, got really, really sick, and we thought we were going to lose them. And we put him on the old INF formula, and the cat, he's really perked up, and he's doing so much better as of today. This was a lovely formula. Now, part of it is you can use it for colds and flus, infections, all kinds of stuff. It's a very wide spectrum formula, but the reason is because of the adaptogenic quality to it, which affects every system and every cell in the body, and that's part of the beauty. One of the rhodiola you'll see in a number of our formulas, such as the cortisol formula, the ALZ formula, and we use rhodiola. It's my favorite adaptogen of all time, but I really love the way it can just merge and become best friends and be part of a whole healing team very, very well with that. This was a really nice Coriolis that we got also, too. It's hard to get really good Coriolis. Wow, stuff we got was just amazing.
So people who are best candidates for using this would be those with challenged immune systems?
Challenged immune systems, going with cold and flu season, take everybody going on the airplane, that kind of stuff.
Chronic inflammation?
What's that?
Chronic inflammation or not that?
Pretty much anything for immune. Again, it's hard to say because each person's system is different and operates and will react a little bit differently. Well, we've had wonderful success with this, and it was interesting. When I started giving it away at the clinic, which is how we test our formulas, the response was phenomenal. They went, wow. And people have used my stuff for years. When we switched over, they go, what about INF? And I said, why don't you try this one out? I said, if you don't like it, I'll give you the INF for free. Oh, my God, this is something I've been dreaming about. So I was really happy with that design on it. That's one that exceeded design expectations.
All right. So I just want to be clear. This one is also with a warning for pregnancy and nursing.
Most of you have that. You really, I really put those on there because some of them, they're just too strong for children. And again, we really don't know what happens during pregnancy and not nursing. A lot of that stuff is can go into the breast milk. You know, it won't harm the baby, but it won't taste good. So of course, if it doesn't taste good, no one wants the milk. So there's a number of caveats with things. You know, we like to think herbs are harmless, but they're not. They're wonderful when you know how to use them, and when you don't, whoa, you can really make a mess of things with it. So that's why I encourage people, please, please, please read the directions and take them to heart. They're on there for a reason.
Great. Thank you. Elijah, I would like you to talk to me about the mood ease.
Ah, okay. Can you put that one up on the screen also too? The formula? Scott, please.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how that came about.
Well, I mean, it's sort of similar to something else. I'm wanting to understand how I would decide that this one is appropriate as opposed to.
See the St. John's wort in there?
Yes.
Okay. You're going to see some of these things in my other formulas, seeded berries. Notice we used ashwagandha in here also too instead of astragalus. Dong quai.
That's the afternoon calming kind of.
Well, this is what
help me sleep, help me be less agitated.
Well, actually, it's for chronic depression, is what it is. There's a whole thing called serotonin uptake, which causes a lot of chronic depression. On that, that's what a lot of medications are for. There was a family member who had, well, you know, a lot of depression. It was driving me insane on it. Well, actually, it was my wife who just told the story. It was just something she's had all her life, was a low-grade chronic depression. In the winter, when the days are short, it gets worse with it. And, you know, it was something I never paid much attention to. But as time went on, it got worse and a little worse and a little worse. And the winters got pretty bad to the point of I'm going, can I do another one? You know, seriously. So I went, God, I love my wife so much. I absolutely adore her, and she's the most fantastic person. So I made this for the chronic depression with it. And from that end, as the cortisol ease for me, being a vet and growing up in a very abusive household with and having PTSD, that saved my marriage from my end. This saved the marriage from her end.
Wow.
So this formula is very dear to my heart with it. It's a very interesting formula because we solve the serotonin uptake problem. Now, the thing you got to be careful with bringing more serotonin in the body that you don't create a serotonin syndrome. When that happens, then that creates a whole other problem. But the formula is pretty smart, and it never does that. It never creates too much of this. What it also does is it neutralizes certain neurotoxins in the body which are caused by the whole depressive mood. You'll see that there's a base built into that that looks a little similar, as you mentioned, to the cortisol formula. It also works with nerve synapse and so on. It's a very fast worker. Great story. We had a patient in the clinic who was really chronically depressed for years on meds. I said, would you like to try the formula? Our doctors worked with her. Beautiful woman, lovely, lovely woman, but she couldn't get out of the depression. She tried the Moody's. When she came in 2 weeks later, I swear, it was the first time I've ever seen her smile in the years that I've known her. She's off all meds. She did that with her doctor. We never tell a person do anything with your meds. A, we're not knowledgeable, we're not trained for that, and B, it's not even legal. So we never mention meds to anyone. If anything but that, we always advise people strongly, please go to your doctor and work with your doctor with this. They will know how the best possible way to do this. We don't, I don't, and, well, whatever. So we've seen this actually change people's lives, you know, on it. It's a fast worker. Like many of the formulas are, but if you're on medication on this, check with your doctor. It says right on the label, do not combine, all those kind of things. Go to your doctor and talk with them about it. But we've had a number of people be able to get off their meds on their own with their doctors with that, and then stay on this for some time, and it helps to re-regulate their system.
All right. Elijah, people often talk about depression and anxiety in the same sentence.
Uh-huh.
Is this one or both?
Well, it depends what the cause of the anxiety is. When people are depressed, they're often anxious about it. You know, it's a...
Well, that too. But, you know, people sort of tend to flip from one to the other, or be fearful of the world and then not wanting to touch the world or withdraw from it.
Well, I would say try it and see what happens. You know,
Right.
it's hard to say. Again, there's a number of things that can cause anxiety. Sometimes you just need a Nervine or an antispasmodic herb. You know, the nervous system is weak on it. It's not firing correctly. You know,
Right.
so
Okay.
most of the
Good.
people I know, though, with
We'll
chronic
talk to
depression,
them about that. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's stop it here. Thank you very much. Mood Ease, wonderful serotonin supplementation. Think of it that way. Okay, let's talk about Neural Ease then.
That's a super one-trick pony. That, hopefully, we've only tested it a little bit, but it was such an important formula. We use that for traumatic brain injury on this. It was to go hand in hand with our PTSD formula, the cortisol ease. On it, we've used it not a whole lot, but I really felt this needed to be out there because there's nothing like this. It helps to oxygenate, bring more oxygenation to the brain, helps to clear out scar tissue from there from injuries, and then again helps with neural synapse. That's why you'll see our formulas will have portions in it. I build with modules. In other words, if you've got a portion that works here, a portion that works there, here, and here, you can put them together, rebuild the formula, and that's partially how I design. So like my cerebral neurological modules, for example, on this, I have a number of those that I've worked with over the years, and I can pick and choose, help put them together, and then as a result, we get these great results. One of the kickers in here is Condorango vine. I think I said it grows at 10 or 12,000 feet or something, 8,000 feet or whatever, and high up in Peru. It's Dr. Shook called it one of the highest sources of nascent oxygen, which means it helps to oxygenate the body, while white pond lily helps to clear out debris and just old stuff from there. Hawthorn berries, then, you know, with the heart, is very, very wonderful, and what it does, it helps to create circulation. There was just this really cool movie called Mr. Holmes with it, where it was a very elderly Sherlock Holmes, and he had gone to China, hopefully to get a prickly ash bark remedy to help with his memory. Well, what it does, it won't help with your memory, but Dr. Shook calls it a deobstructant, and what that means is it has a tendency to take and clear things through the bloodstream and to clear out, you could say, well, obstructing debris in the body. Works pretty good.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's cover one more, and it's the Safe Energy.
Safe Energy. That was, I came up with that name years ago. Long time ago. So I wanted to do an energy product, but the caveat was it couldn't be stimulating, couldn't act like caffeine, and wouldn't have any caffeine-like effects in it. Safe Energy was that. It's a very powerful combination of adaptogens with it. And it's interesting because people take it and they go, I don't get any more energy. There's no boost. However, if you take it, you just don't get tired. We wrote mental clarity because we had a lot of people using that, students and things on that order with it. It helps to keep them more awake and alert and to learn things actually faster. But it's a wonderful combination. We could not make this formula years ago, so I kind of kept the name around. When I go to the gym, I'll be 65 pretty soon, I can run in 3/4 of an hour. I usually run about close to 4 miles up an incline with that, which is pretty well moving. I'm a weightlifter. I can actually run faster now than I ever can in my life. I take Safe Energy to the gym with me. Before I train, I'll take like a couple of eyedroppers, and I'll work out for about an hour and a half with weights and things, and then I'll go up to the cardio room, and I mean, I really wail up there, and I'll take another couple of eyedroppers beforehand. You could take it on a regular basis for energy, but I want people to understand is it doesn't act like coffee. It's not going to make a stimulant. And that's the only caveat we've had with the product. People go, nothing's happened. But then if you exercise and keep going, you just don't get tired. So that's why it's called Safe Energy. It doesn't make you peak and crash. It takes you to a level, and it keeps you there. If you start to come down a bit, you take some more with it. It's just a really nice formula. And here you're seeing rhodiola and ashwagandha and astragalus. Maca root, okay, has historically been used by many native tribes for energy also too. We use foti in here, and gata kola, which also then help to bring more mental clarity. And the cedar berries then really strengthens the adrenals in here.
Excellent.
Really formula.
Yes, great. So use Safe Energy when you want to feel more energetic or when you need to put out a physical effort that you're having a hard time doing.
I use it instead of coffee a lot. Yes. But again, it took a little while to get used to. The first few times I took it, I went, well, this is disappointing. This is a little disappointing. And then I tried it, and I went, oh my God, with this one.
Okay. So what do you think of people with chronic fatigue? Do you think it would help them?
You know, not necessarily on it, because of the fact they don't need to become energized. They need to get healed. You have to find out why they're having chronic fatigue. You know,
yeah, it's usually a different reason.
You know, is it not proper oxygenation? You know, on it, is their adrenals weakened? Usually with chronic fatigue, that's what we find. Low-grade infection, usually poor oxygenation caused by a low iron absorption level, you know, with it, and weak adrenals. So this would not be their cup of tea. It'd be like, you know, or their cup of coffee for that matter. They need to get to the point of why that's occurring. Now, there's another formula, a sister formula called Support System A, which is very similar to this, which is a little bit different. That okay. We, as...
Hold on. We will talk about it in the next message.
Okay.
Thanks, Elijah. That's great. Let us cover the System Support A formula now.
Okay. If you look at the formula, it looks similar, but there's different proportions to it, and there's another herb added to it that aids with it to permeate into the cells very nicely. Now, this one we give as an adjunct. It's an adaptogenic adjunct to, like, say, for example, a formula, or rather for someone that has someone like chronic fatigue, or is recovering from a debilitating disease or injury that they have historically not been able to do so from. When that occurs, the body just can't get enough strength. So as a result, what we do with this is, see, it's got some safflower and barberry, and like I said, the other ingredients are in a different proportion, which really makes a difference. But together, what this does, along with a program like that, is really outstanding. We've been, for example, using this with a woman who's had a number of debilitating problems for like a couple of decades. While we're working with her with a number of things, what we have now found is by using this, it enables the person to start to strengthen right on that deepest cellular level. But we would not use that just alone by any means like that.
All right. So again, this is a tonic type of a formulation that will support people in their
It's actually more adaptogenic. It's more of an adaptogenic formula.
All right.
I've gone from a lot of tonic to adaptogenic formulas over the years because I just found that the adaptogens just work so much more powerfully than a lot of the tonics do.
All right.
Tonics are good. Tonics are really good for digestion and things and immune, but a number of things, the adaptogens are just fantastic. You know, sorry, I was going to get into some herbal lore, but we'll let that one go at the moment.
All right. Elijah, let's talk about the TMJ Ease formula.
Oh, okay. We had going to have to do a side thing here. we had designed the Fibromyalgia Formula. And there was a period of 2 weeks where 3 people came in and they said, does this work on TMJ? And I said, well, not that I'm aware of. And I said, why? They go, I've had the most terrible TMJ for years. I spent a fortune at the dentist. Nothing's happened. I took your Fibromyalgia Formula. My TMJ's gone. Okay, so the first person I went fluke. The second one I listened to. The third one I said, wait a minute. Now, when I was in the service when I was 18, I got hit in the, right in the jaw with a rifle butt. Okay, it shouldn't have happened, but I was a pretty wild kid, and we're fooling around one day, and it really wangled my jaw. Ever since I was 18, I had terrible TMJ. And I mean, it really hurt. A good day, on a scale of 1 to 10, on a good day, it was about a 5. Okay, that was the best it ever got. We're talking decades. So I went, okay, 3 people in 2 weeks. Something's going on with this. So I looked at the formula and I went, So I took the Fibro formula, and in about 10 days, the TMJ started getting better, and in 2 weeks, it was pretty much gone. I went, oh my God. So what I did was I took the portion from there. This was one of the first modules I did. I took some of the module formula combination from the Fibro formula, recombined it with some other things to clear out acids from the system, and we ended up with the TMJ formula. We have a dentist that actually sends people over all the time for that kind of work with me, and he's an expert, Dr. Greg Army in Mountain View here. Yeah, excuse me, Mountain View. And we work together, but I've worked with this wonderful TMJ expert now for a number of years, and he just loves the formula. So again, it's a fast worker. What happens is that on the condyle joints here, which are very, very small, if they're out of kilter, by chewing down on them, fibrin builds up in the body, and it's a protective for that. When it builds up enough, it acts like a wedge. Now, if your jaw's really off, you may need to go to a dentist afterwards. But for me, my jaw was kind of like that after getting whacked like that so hard back in 1968 on that. My jaw dropped into place, and I could chew just about anything afterwards with it. So I was very partial towards this guy over here, and that's how this one works.
Fantastic. So, one-trick pony, but what a trick.
It's a good trick. Can chew apples and eat nuts again.
Fantastic. All right, Elijah, let's talk about Song of the Nightingale.
Oh, that's lovely. We just got a national endorsement from Vicky Genfan for that. Vicky Genfan did the music on our video on our site for healing PTSD, which is called BringOurVetsAllTheWayHome.org. Vicky is the first woman to win Guitar Superstar of the Year, or to be voted Guitar Superstar of the Year from Guitar Magazine. All the big superstars that year, Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, all voted for her. She is our national spokesman for this product. Song of the Nightingale is a wonderful throat and chest syrup that tastes really good and gives you the most fabulous breath. We make the tincture base for this. It's then combined with essential oils and a base of organic honey and glycerin. Tastes really good, a fast worker. In the winter, it's hard to keep it on the shelf with it, and it's just been a great formula. This formula went through 3 complete different permutations of formulations of the tinctures over the years until we ended up with this one here. And again, you'll see that this was the latest one that we did some years ago, and you'll see that it has wonderful herbs in there for cough, elecampane, grindelia, horehound, osha root. The rhodiola and astragalus helps to make it more tonic in more adaptogen in nature. That's why we did the upgrade by putting that in there. So it's a very fast worker, but we used to sell it to, when Billy Crystal and other people used to do the Academy Awards, actually they would buy a case of it every year. With it, and what happened one year, nobody decided who would pay for it, so the Academy Awards got a big case of that. They stopped selling to them after that. Seriously. But we used to sell it every year, and one year they're going, well, just be happy that people like Billy Crystal took it. And he didn't even know about it, but that was what happened, why it was really on its way somewhere, and we just said, we're not giving you away anymore. You guys got all the money on that, and they didn't pay for it. But it's been a standard for just forever. I first designed that formula the second year I was in practice because I was studying essential oils and I wanted to really learn how to use them. So that formula came out of that. It's just lovely. When I work close with people with body work, I always take a dose of that, so my breath is delicious and really, really nice. It tastes like strong peppermint candy.
All right. And so this would be only used while you're having difficulty with the voice, yeah?
Well, voice, sore throat, it clears the chest on that. Public speakers use it. Vicky takes it to her. She's doing actually a big music camp this week. She just got a whole bunch of that, and she's turning all of her students onto that who sing. She'll be teaching singing there.
Fantastic. Great. This leaves us with just the single formulas. You have maca root and you have rhodiola. Do we want to even talk about these?
Well, just mention rhodiola is my favorite adaptogen, and the maca was I wanted to put out a maca product that didn't cost an arm and a leg. Okay.
So let's just give it a couple minutes. All right.
Okay. Rhodiola, to me, is just one of the most wonderful adaptogens in the world. The source that I get it from is just extraordinary. We buy 5 pounds at a time for just our little clinic and for this. And I just wanted to produce the best rhodiola tincture that anyone could possibly get. I'm not saying other people's aren't good, but I really wanted to produce something that I thought was really fantastic at a really good price. With that, I just love this. When I was recovering from a long-time illness, the fungus story, this is one of the herbs that I used to really help rebuild my system, and I took it for a year, and the results were just phenomenal from that single herb with it. And again, the maca, truthfully, I see bottles of maca powder, 50, stop there? Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the maca formula.
Okay. Anyhow, if people are listening, they're going to go, is he going to say that again? But honestly, when I learned more about maca and I saw the pricing on it, I was absolutely appalled. I mean, at times it's $50, $60, $70 for a bottle of the powder. People have no idea that from an incredibly good source, it's actually a pretty inexpensive herb. But because a lot of times it's used for helping tonically sexual situations and stuff like that, it gets marked up, I think, way, way too much. So I wanted to produce the absolute best. And what we do, we actually combine maca from 2 different places on it, so that we get the maca from here, the maca from there, and those wonderful nutrients all come together like that. So it was actually, very truthfully, it was sort of more of an altruistic thing, and the bottle sells for $15 on it, rather than $50 or $60.
Right. And so this bottle of maca root tincture is enough to last a man a couple of weeks or 3 weeks?
Well, it depends on how much they want to use it. If it's a standard dose, then it's a half an eyedropper 3 times a day.
All right.
Maca is one of those things that build up in the system. Most tonic herbs are. It's a mild tonic herb. It's not a real. Excuse me. It's an adaptogen herb, mildly tonic but more adaptogen. It's a mild adaptogen. But those things have a way of kind of building up in the system over a period of time. It's like building the energy in a plant to flower. You fertilize it nicely, slowly over a period of time. You don't dump a gallon of fertilizer into it and blow the whole thing out, which is what a lot of people do with it. So things like this, over a period of time help to strengthen the system with that rather than kind of exploding the system. And again, that's the approach that I really like to take.
So what are some of the uses of maca for those of us that never heard of it before?
It's an adaptogen that helps first with women with balancing their hormones. There's some kind of myth that it's supposed to be more of an aphrodisiac for women or help sexually. I've never seen that happen. Okay, that's a myth. It works more on men that way with it. There's a few guys I know, my age or a little younger, and they bought it from me, patients, and they reported things, and kind of the synthesis would be, gosh, my boy parts feel like they're about 20 years younger again. Can't complain about that one, Scott. With it, I'm probably blushing at the moment. But that was the effect. I actually tried it also, too, and I'd have to say something on that order a bit, but it really depends with it. It's not an aphrodisiac. It just has a tendency just to really just help with those particular parts, with the body. Hormonal-wise, it works better for women. Sexual-wise, it works better for men, has been my experience with that. So again, I just wanted to kind of put it out at a really great price because it's not an expensive thing to produce by any means. And it's a very easy production method for that one.
Great. And
we could just go back for a second, and later on, as I'm editing, I'll take this and put it back with the rhodiola. But what is that for? Because I didn't quite get that either. Like,
adaptogen. It's a single herb that I found as an adaptogen that, taken over a period of time, can really help the body to heal on a cellular level. I mentioned in the first one that we did, I got this horrible, horrible fungus infection that eventually led to a heart attack that was pretty much fatal. They brought me in dead, and they didn't know if I was going to even make it into the hospital. It was a complete clogged artery, which, gosh, the doctor missed. I went to have a test. He did the wrong test, and he says, "No, you're fine." 8-9 months later, I had a heart attack. They brought me in pretty much dead. They did an emergency surgery on me, and I was on meds for a short while with this. And that's when I was really starting to study adaptogens, and rhodiola was the first adaptogen. I mentioned I took it for a year. It gave me back my health and my life. Now, at 65, I'm a runner, a weightlifter. I actually don't know another person my age that could compete against me endurance-wise now. Seriously, I had a stent in my heart, but because of that, I took that herb straight for a year on it, and I swear, after a few months, it was like, wow, I'm flowering again. I didn't think I was going to have a life, so I really owe a lot to that herb, which is why, actually, the real reason I did it. I made that herb was because of the effect I had, and the way I manufacture, I wanted other people to have that opportunity to have an herb like that manufactured to that degree. So that was my reason for the rhodiola.
Very neat. And I don't think we have any other...
We don't sell any other formulas. Elijah has a number of them in his lab that are not currently labeled and offered commercially, but there they are.
Cool. So I was wondering, now that we're done talking about all the products, if we could just, us girls, talk about these.
Actually,
I'm curious. I've got this expert in front of me, and my mind's just kind of...
Scott, before you get there, I want to show you. Maureen just delivered me a little slip. While we were talking, a phone rang. Woman called up, and she says she saw Dr. Free's patent renewal and wants to know about clinical studies done on idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. She would like to know that it may or may not work on her idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis.
First of all, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a healer, Jim. I'm not a doctor. But I'm not a doctor. Everybody needs to know that. People do that a lot, but I'm not a doctor by any means. On it, the doctors call me a healer, and I'm thrilled with that. It took me decades, and the only reason I accepted that was when I started to work at the clinic 15.5 years ago. One is I really needed the gig, and the head doctor, Dr. Connie, said, "I've been watching you. You're a healer." We argued with it for 3 months, and she said, "Listen, I sign your paychecks." She goes, "You're a healer. Accept it." That took me about another 10 years to get comfortable with it, and I'm still not that comfortable. It's a very, very high calling, seriously.
All right.
With it. The best thing for this, I'll be truthful, Martin, is I would need more information. She's welcome to get in touch with me.
Perfect. That's the answer I wanted to hear. I will give her your phone number.
And see on that. I'm surprised that she's checking patents, because actually it is time to, actually we have to do that on our patent on it. I'm in the midst of the renewal system on that. So it's funny. So somebody did an awful lot of research on that.
Okay. Can you then talk a little bit about the patent or patents that you have?
Yeah.
We stopped at one patent. One was the cost. And two was, well, I'm a little tiny person, and suppose it's kind of like, it's not exactly like Apple and Samsung where they can go drop $10 million. Some great big company could come, take my patent, and what am I going to do? I'm going to sue them? Seriously. So truthfully, we stopped doing patents. Again, one was the cost. With it, it was very expensive. The patent office doesn't like patents, apparently, for this kind of product. They turned it down 3 or 4 times until finally the term is they couldn't defeat it anymore. and it cost us a small fortune. A neurologist, Dr. Doug Davies, down in incredible doctor. God, this guy is amazing. He's down in Southern California. He's a very high-end neurologist. He paid for the patent after he actually tried the formula down there for some time. The thing is about our formulas, the amounts are so strange. I could have 24 parts of something, 1 of this, 18 of this, 12 of that. So you look and you go, well, there's 4 herbs in there. I'm going to make it rot-a-ruck, as we say. The other thing are my manufacturing methods on that. No one knows them but me, and that's what makes things. I was mentioning the allergy ease. I could tell somebody, yeah, it's 95% this and 5% that. Here's where you go buy the ingredients. No, you try and make it. So that's why we kind of stopped on that, is one, we can't enforce it on it truthfully. A big company wants to come, finally go, well, take me to court, sue me, which is how that stuff works with anyone. So there was no point in it. But the thing is, interestingly, was I did license it one time to a very nice company. We got along beautifully well, a very high integrity company called Ridgecrest. And they first tried to make some tinctures, and they had a factory, and they could not produce them like mine. They sent a bunch of them to me, and I gave them to patients of low income. It was a fibro formula. They didn't work. They were going, what's the stuff you're giving me? I don't care if it was free or not. It didn't work. So I said, well, I feel appalled. Here, take these. Here's the way I make it. They work great. So the problem is that most places can't even duplicate my methods on it. We basically, some of our tinctures take 3 to 4 weeks to make on it. Now, what happens is they cost us an awful lot more to produce like that, and we put more herb in them also, and the quality of herb. OCD is not the right word to call me when it comes to the quality of my product, my raw materials. Probably slightly, well, over the top, reasonably over the top, everything. Just check out so carefully. So the best materials, we pay top dollar for everything. We have a much shorter expiration date on things, on raw materials and on finished products even on it. We keep them about half as long as people normally do even, because everything you get is the absolute freshest stuff. So anyhow, that's sort of the patent thing. So the only patent we did was the fibro formula, which was a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll do it again.
Okay. Elijah, thank you very much for spending your time, your valuable time, and your wisdom with our viewers.
My great pleasure, Martin. My great pleasure. And I want to thank you so much. I just want folks to know that from our website, Martin is the only authorized, I mean, we will sell it obviously other places, but from our website, Martin is the only person in Maureen and Life Enthusiast that we want to deal with. Martin was great. He took us in when we started up the company again after many years of not doing it. Martin heard about us. We sent him some stuff. He gave us a tryout. It's just been a wonderful thing. It's just been a fabulous collaboration. And wow, I just want to say, Martin, thank you so much for letting us come back into the world. You are kind of helped rebirth our company after many years of not doing anything publicly. So we're just very grateful to you and Maureen.
It's been an honor. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Hope you have taken some pearls of wisdom and a direction for dealing with your specific health concerns. This is Life Enthusiast, restoring vitality to you and to the planet. You can find us online at www.life-enthusiast.com, and you can reach us on the telephone at 1-866-543-3388. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.